is a Bramble Jam podcast.
Hi, what happened? Our male person just got here.
That's very funny. Yeah, I also should.
You couldn't hear her?
No.
She was shouting hello over and over again. And you
Wow,
were just
that's
rolling
so funny.
along like
What did she have?
something called carousel cakes.
Like
Yeah.
someone sent us a cake?
They're called carousel cakes. That's all I know. I don't know anything else.
I hope this will be at the end of the podcast in the outtakes. That's all I hope.
Hi, I'm Bran, and I love Hallmark mysteries.
I'm Dan, and I despise Hallmark mysteries.
I'm John, and I write Hallmark mysteries.
And this is the Deck the Hallmark podcast.
Yes, it is.
Oh,
Here we
yeah.
are. A special Friday interview, and all I'm going to be thinking about this whole episode is carousel
cakes.
And what are they? But we'll get there.
We're going to try to
Don't
give
worry.
John Christian Plummer our best, but carousel cakes are
I don't
on
know what to
deck.
tell you.
Let's just be
I don't know
clear.
what to tell you.
At least you don't have to follow carousel cakes, John. I mean, come on.
It's true.
Yeah, who can?
I should, though, now. Maybe I'll get a free one delivered like you guys do.
Right.
So I want to say this, and I know you're the host of the show, but we had six.
We're co-hosts.
So that's fair. I like it. 6 people, no less than 6, and I have names, addresses, and phone numbers, who said that they would burn this studio to the ground if we didn't get answers.
Yeah.
So
We talked about Mystery 101 yesterday.
That's right.
And the emails came in and they
I
said,
mean,
if
come
you
on.
guys don't do the hard-hitting journalism
That's right.
stuff, then we're not going to listen anymore.
And so we got him. We got him. We got the guy responsible for all of your nightmares. Responsible for the fact that Jill Wagner and Chris Palaha, as we sit right now, are not together.
Well, as we sit in 11 months from now,
That's right.
technically.
The most we know is
Yeah.
that they are not together. That is the most we know. And that, I don't know if you know this, guys, but in the Hallmark world, to end a movie with the 2 leads not together, this may be the first time that that's happened in modern Hallmark history. Like, I'm after movie of the week where ABC would buy them, but since Hallmark became its own channel, I don't know if we have another one of these.
Yeah. And so first question is, who do you think you are?
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh, I didn't think about it in those terms, but who do I think I am? I mean, I'm the one who's fortunate enough to write Mystery 101 and who, is really extremely fortunate to have Heather Overton and Emily Merlin, my incredible producers, supporting me in
In this time of need.
No. I mean, we're great. Everybody's excited. I mean, there's no such thing as bad press, right?
I love it.
The fact I was following on Twitter, on Sunday night when the show premiered, and people are tweeting, "We're trending at 27," and then an hour later, we were trending at 19.
Look
We had-
out.
1 hour later, we had actually, the enthusiasm had increased for the show. And I'm using the word enthusiasm
Yes.
intentionally. But yeah, no, but what I meant about Heather and Emily is their incredible support in letting us do, this kind of, tell this kind of a story, which isn't all neat and tidy, like, kind of like life.
What?
That's right.
Get out of here. Now, John Christian Plummer, we do have other questions.
We'll get. I think let's get to know him first.
Let's do that.
I don't want
before we bombard him and
That's right.
run him off. Let's but here's the thing. You got to know this, John. Yesterday on the show, I said it's the best mystery they've ever done. It's the best one they've ever done. Not Mystery 101, Hallmark. It's the best mystery Hallmark's ever done. That and another one you pinned, I believe it was Dead Talk. I think those two,
Yes.
stand above by and large the rest of what I've watched on the Movies and Mysteries channel. And so I'm
Which
happy.
one is Wizard Skills?
Wizard skills. What is that one?
Oh gosh,
that line. Some kid says wizard skills, and we.
That's in Dead. That's in Dead.
It's in Dead
see,
Talk.
that's why it's the best one, man. That's why it's I love
we
that.
We played
line.
that clip numerous times.
I thought it was hilarious.
So you can go back and listen to that, John, on your spare time. But before then, let's do get to know him.
Yeah,
sure.
really, who do you think you are? But in like the real sense, like who are you? What's your story? How'd you get into writing and all that stuff?
Oh my goodness! I mean, I got into writing. I had a theater company, I had a Shakespeare company that I had started right after college. And, we had some ideas for shows that we wanted that didn't exist. So I was like, well, I guess I'll write that, and I, really didn't think of myself as a writer at all, but that's really how writing started. And then I, of course I had always loved writing and literature, and especially dramatic literature. I was an actor and a director. And an artistic director of this fledgling Shakespeare company. But it took a long time for me to think of myself as a writer. And eventually I did. And here I am.
What's the best Shakespeare play, John?
Oh boy. That's a great question, Dan. I will tell you they're all so brilliant, even King John. But I think my most favorite, I've directed Twelfth Night 3 times. It's very near and dear to me. I think it's a beautifully complex, hilarious comedy about death and grief. And but for my money, I think the best one is Winter's Tale. Or Much Ado About Nothing. It's maybe a tie between Much Ado About Nothing and Winter. In fact, I was referencing Much Ado About Nothing to some of our fans that I was communicating with on Instagram, because they were so distraught that Amy and Travis, that things seemed so dark for Amy and Travis, and I said, well, please I refer you to Act 4, Scene 1 of Much Ado About Nothing, where, things are as grim as they could possibly be for our heroes. And then that play manages to end with, I think, one of the most extraordinary conclusions about the true nature of love in an incredibly affirming but honest and well-rounded way that you could ever imagine. So
yeah,
anyway,
the night is always darkest before the dawn, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No. Totally get it. It's a great answer. You gave us 5 Shakespeare plays, so that's a great answer.
How has kind of your love of Shakespeare and the theater influenced the writing of a Hallmark mystery, which is, let's be honest, like right up there with Shakespeare, typically Hallmark movies and mysteries.
The pros.
But how has that kind of the world that you've been in for so long with Shakespeare, how has that influenced your writing when it comes to shaping a good mystery?
Well, it's funny because, of course, he is the greatest writer, certainly in our language, no question. So it's a very, very high bar. To view him as a mentor, which I certainly do, is a very high bar. But I think the thing about him is, first of all, his capacity to, what we would say today, mash genres, where, you get a play like Hamlet, right? Which is, well, known around the world as the greatest tragedy of all time. It's an incredibly funny play. There is so much humor in that, so much dark humor, so much naughty, dirty, sexual humor, right? And so certainly for me, like writing Mystery 101, the ability to go, to veer from, things that are romantic to things that are just flat out funny to things that are really dark and heavy and serious. I think that's certainly, studying Shakespeare and directing Shakespeare has helped me a lot with that. And then I also think just dramatic structure. I mean, he really is the master of dramatic structure. And we have to be mindful of that very much in writing these movies.
And this last episode of Mystery 101 does get pretty dark, which I'm excited to talk about. But before we do, you are incredibly well spoken, and you're Shakespeare. And I'm not saying this in any way that it's going to be taken, but how did you get to Hallmark? Like, how did you?
Great question.
How did you get there? Question. How did you get from directing
Shakespeare?
Like an
odd fit.
Yeah.
So so in Hollywood, when you have a manager like I do, I have a wonderful manager named Bradford Bricken. I have to credit him. He introduced me to Bradford.
Bradford.
He's from Tennessee, by the way. I don't know where you guys hail from.
We're South Carolina, so close by.
All right, close enough. So anyway, Bradford introduced me to this incredible executive named Mary Beth Sprose, who was at a company at that time called Paulist Productions, which was a production company set up by the Paulist fathers. And he just thought I would be a good fit with them for whatever reason. And they had read a spec script that I had written. We had a great meeting, and we ended up developing a show together. Never were able to get that set up, but then Mary Beth moved on from Paulist and went to Hallmark, and she was an executive there, and she brought me in on she had read a bunch of stuff that I'd written, and she knew that I had done this series called Granite Flats for improbably BYU TV, but it was really
all makes sense now.
It was like an incredible show because they let us be really dark with this. I mean, this was a show set in a small town in Colorado in the early 60s. But, when I came on board, I pitched to them that it would be about MK Ultra, which was the secret CIA
LSD.
mind control program.
That's
right, exactly. Testing drugs on, some unwitting subjects, but a lot of witting subjects, including servicemen. And so I thought, this is what's going on in this small town, and mysteries and blah blah blah. But the show was a mystery show. It had this whole mystery element in terms of driving it, and so she knew me from that show, and I think she just thought I would be a good fit, and of course she knew that I love literature, and so she had this project, this script that was really handed to her that had been developed and written, but it was not what anybody wanted it to be, and that's what became Mystery 101.
Wow.
And because Amy was a literature professor, nominally, at least in the original drafts, I was brought on board and thought I would be a good fit, and I turned out to be a decent fit.
A great fit, John. How dare you? A great fit. And is that why in IMDb it says written, your credits for Mystery 101 are written by 4 episodes, teleplay 2, story 1. Is that how that breaks down?
Yeah, I'm not sure how I'm not quite sure how IMDb credits things. I wrote them all. I've got the teleplay, credit on all 7 of them at this point. Well, actually, I share the teleplay credit on Dead Talk with my friend Jim Biederman, but I have the teleplay credit on all of them. I have a shared story credit with the original writers of the first draft.
One. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Have you had any desire to dabble with a Hallmark Channel proper script, more romantic, little less mystery? Have you thought about that since you're already
a little more ado, a little less nothing?
Yes, that's right. And any of that percolating in the brain?
Yeah. No, actually, I mean, I have been I'm writing one. I'm in the middle of writing one. Yes, I was brought on again to do a rewrite of one that is a fall romantic comedy, and it's really so. I'm in the middle of it, and I'm actually waiting for notes back from our executives, but it's actually really a delightful challenge for me. And I really, I'm much ado. I love Shakespeare. I love romantic comedy. I love banter. And, I'm a huge Nora Ephron fan. And so, to me, again, I'm always trying to raise the bar and bring things up. And that's what I'm working on with this one.
Do they break up at the end of that one, or is that just exclusively for Mr.
It ends in a murder suicide.
Yes.
No, I'm joking. Yeah. But again, too, I hope that if this one goes the distance, we'll see. You never know in Hollywood. But if this one goes the distance, you guys can judge, and if you think it presents a more, what's the way to put this?
Be
a more
political.
three-dimensional, a more, more layered version of what human life is. So, and
I know
anyway, we'll see.
we have to talk about Mystery 101, but this guy chooses his words so carefully that I really want to just try to trip him up and make him say something he's not supposed to say. Like, that part of me just wants to do that instead. But
I love it.
we need to talk
I'm
about
completely on board.
Well, my mom was an English teacher and I was a history teacher, which is those are not great credentials, but it's enough to recognize eloquence, and you're doing a great job. So we have to talk about Mystery 101, right? There's 7 of these bad boys. It's Travis, it's Amy. Somehow Travis gets jurisdiction no matter where he is, and no questions are asked. And these. Go ahead.
I think questions are asked. I mean, I think in my defense, in the defense of the scripts, questions are
Well, then let me just start with this then. If you, were covering up a 20-year-old murder and were a cop, would you let Travis have jurisdiction?
Well, keep your enemies closer, right? I mean, that's the principle that Harry is working on. Like, keep your enemies closer. He needs to find this guy.
Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah.
I mean, I obviously this is a spoiler.
Oh yeah, we'll say that at the beginning. Right? I'm sure. Spoiler. Cool. Yeah.
But so he needs to find Al Winslow, and why not get some help from the big city, from big city on the way. But of course, he's quite confident that he'll get there.
Outfox him, if you will.
Yes,
well, you did it. There's one other time where I believe Travis's partner, that might be in Dead Talk. It might be a different one. Travis's partner.
That is in your beloved Dead Talk.
That's right. And that one makes sense. Like, that one I'm on board with. But this one I was like, this guy you wouldn't do it. Like, I just can't imagine a world where I'm covering up this long standing thing. And I'm like, yeah, dude, come on in, sniff around. Like, it was hard for me to swallow a little bit.
Yeah, but he's always with them. He's always on top of things. Yeah. And again, it really is the principle of keep your enemies closer. I mean, they've flown 3,000 miles to try to, stick their beaks into this. And I think Harry's sentiment is they're going to do this whether I give them permission or not. Better to keep them, Velcroed to me.
All right. That's what I'm talking about.
So there's 7 of these now. I know sometimes they shoot them back to back, or they're working on a couple at a time or whatever. How far in advance do you kind of have not just the story for an individual movie, but like the overall arc? Or to ask this question, like, how far in advance did you come up with like the ending of the latest Mystery 101? Like, how far are you planning this scope of these 2 characters within the larger story that is Mystery 101?
Well, it's very much, the only time we've ever really written 2 really at the same time was with Words Can Kill and Dead Talk, and which are numbers 3 and 4. And that's why my friend Jim came in to sort of help me, at least with the first draft of Dead Talk. And then I took over because we were just in a time crunch. But normally, we're doing these really one at a time. That's the model, that's the production model that they work on. And all that said, I do, at least pre-COVID, I would pitch them like 3 ideas in advance. This is what I think are the next 3. And then they, say thumbs up or thumbs down on that. But now that we're really starting to, grow into these characters and allow the show to arc more, we're not really, I mean, I will be honest with you, they didn't know the ending when I had pitched the outline version of Deadly History to Heather and Emily. There was no cliffhanger ending. We had put a cliffhanger ending in the one before, sort of a soft cliffhanger that the uncle was missing. When they came back with the notes and they said, we hope you're going to put a cliffhanger in this one because that worked really well.
Okay.
And just really let me go. So when I sent in the draft, it was there.
So you didn't have to fight for this. You didn't have to go in and say, "Hey, this is a really great idea. We should do it." They are the ones that kind of prodded you for this, is what you're saying.
That is correct. Yes. I mean, they really wanted a cliffhanger, and I really gave them one.
Yeah, you did.
And so Brent, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but I knew some things about what would happen now and what we're calling number 8, which I'm in the middle of writing right now. But the 11-year time jump 11 month.
What do you do? Let's cut that right there. Just put it in there. The 11-year time, you're going to freak some people out.
But when you write that cliffhanger,
mm-hmm.
Did you know where you wanted to go with it? Or was it, hey, here's an idea, I'm just going to throw it in there, the movie will get made, and then I'll think about it?
So, or at least I know roughly where, I certainly would not say I know all of the details, but I certainly know emotionally what's going on with the characters and why they're in this place emotionally. And, but part of the fun challenge, and this I learned from another great writing mentor, Charles Dickens, is creating the cliffhanger and not knowing where the story's going, and then you have to get out of it. And that's exact. So when you do that, and I used to explain this in writing when I was teaching writing, that you want to put yourself in the same position as the characters, right? Like, so if you're in a dramatic bind, if you've put yourself quite literally in a dramatic bind where you don't know where the story goes, well, that's exactly what the situation of your characters are in too.
Yep.
And now you're aligned with them in a way that you wouldn't be when you're some, omniscient, puppet master that's controlling everything. No, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you this. That's a great answer, by the way. You get there was a regime change at Hallmark over the span of Mystery 101.
Indeed.
And that regime change, I'm not putting you on the spot to answer for all of Hallmark. I would probably do that, but not to you. I would not do it. But there has been a stark difference in what's allowed to be put on Hallmark now versus what was allowed to be put on Hallmark pre-2020. Did you notice that change in what you were allowed to do? Because I just feel like we've seen it on the Hallmark Channel side, not the mystery side, on the Hallmark Channel side. But this movie not only does it have a cliffhanger that scoots 11 months forward, they've broken up. One of them is engaged, perceived at least. Some people think that's not real. We can get to that in a little bit. But and there's a good guy, quote unquote, in this movie of yours, Al, that is having an affair. These are things that we've been watching these movies longer than I care to admit. They just weren't present before 2020. And so have you noticed, whether it's a freedom or just a general, steering of the ship in a way that allows you to do these kind of things that wasn't available before 2020?
Definitely. Yes, there's without question. I think, though, with even the first one, part of the mandate for me, and I think why Mary Beth Sprose brought me on to write Mystery 101, was because they were already wanting to go, darker. That was the word they used. They said, we this can be more grown up. This can be more complicated. And so they were already moving in that direction. But I've certainly, even to the point where on the romantic comedy I'm working on, the executive said to me, please write this when you tackle the draft, write this for the new Hallmark, not the old Hallmark. Okay. Those are the words she used. And I think, and so, yes, I've certainly noticed that there are strictures around some of the behavior of, just as you see, some of the quote unquote good characters and the quote unquote bad characters, that they're actually they're allowed to just be characters,
which is wonderful.
Right? We have, and this was and this was a mandate for me that I presented to them from the beginning, from the first Mystery 101, which is I want our audience to watch this and say, okay, I don't approve of murder, of course,
Yes.
right?
However,
However, I do sympathize with the murderer, and because without that, then why do we care? Then it's just an intellectual exercise, and that's boring.
Well, that actually is. I mean, I think even the character of Travis Burke comes in with a very hardened edge that has kind of cooled over as he's gotten to know Amy, which is another cool thing. Is he has a past that's pretty intense and pretty dark that I think on another network you would get to see some flashbacks of him doing some things you wouldn't approve of. That'd be my guess, and I hope that's how you wrote it because that's how it came across. But my question is, how do you write? Like, I know this is going to sound like a terrible question, but how do you write these? Like, not like, let me get my storyboard out, here's what should happen, but I've watched a lot of Hallmark mysteries, and it's just people explaining things. Like, that's basically what happens in these movies, and it's necessary because you have 83 minutes to tell a mystery that's elaborate and complex and labyrinthine, and so many times story is shortchanged for, okay, this person was here because of this, and she said this, and she said, like, and there's a lot of ellipses and then when people are talking. And by and large, and yours has some of that because it's a Hallmark mystery, but by and large, you've eschewed some of that for actual action. And so what goes into that? Do you write a lot of action? Do they push back, or is what you give them, usually good when you send it to them and they can just film it?
Oh, no. I mean, so to give credit where it is due, the producers, as I mentioned, the directors of each episode, there's lots of feedback and notes, and we go back and forth and it's also, as far as the action stuff goes, yes, a lot of times I'll set a pretty high bar for action, and sometimes they'll say, we can't do that. We don't have time. We don't have money. And sometimes they'll say the opposite. They'll say, hey, can we turn this into more of an action scene?
Oh, wow.
Which is great. Yeah, which has really, really been great. And again, I think we tried to establish that from the first one, is that there was going to be, real action going on in this, But so as far as the first part of your question of how do you not just make these one exposition dump after another, I think that the key again is voice. Each one of these characters has to have their own voice. They're individual people. And so what I've tried to do with each subsequent Mystery 101 is not only hear the voice of Travis as his voice, the voice of Amy as her voice, Graham as him, Graham, whom I love, and I think Robin, who plays him,
Thomas is wonderful.
Phenomenal. Oh my gosh. I mean, I just love him. But also with each, guest character, each one of them has to have their own voice, their own way of speaking. And, like in this episode, having Sinead be from Ireland, she's married to an Irish American guy. She's, it's like, it's not just accents. I'm not talking about that, but I'm just saying that each person has to have their own way of expressing themselves, and then also their own way of behaving, of getting what they're after. So even if it's a detective trying to get after an answer, every detective's going to have a different way of doing that, right? Of getting at an answer. And then, of course, there's the mystery, the bigger mystery that undergirds all the whodunit, which is, what's the mystery of Travis and Amy? And when will they, which I think is the mystery that a lot of fans have returned for, is when will they get together? When will they admit they love each other? When will they kiss? When will they, all these things. Now we've, certainly proven that people like that story a lot.
Yeah. You have this cliffhanger, which is quite the cliffhanger. But right before the cliffhanger, and I think the thing that sets up the cliffhanger for being as powerful as it is the expression of love. Both of them saying, I love you for the first time. Cut to 11 months, they're broken up.
And she's engaged. And you can confirm that she was actually engaged in those 11 months?
Well, you saw the show.
Oh,
you know that Travis says, That's Amy's fiance.
Yes.
Right.
And we went back. We took it to the
Jameson
tape.
Is Amy's fiance. Yeah.
We took it
We
to
took
the
it to the
tape.
tape. It didn't say was. It says is.
Right.
So that means she's engaged after they say I love you to each other. Okay.
Yes.
Just want to make sure. Okay, go ahead.
But my point is,
We dodged that one pretty well.
You were told, hey, make sure you have a cliffhanger. Did you always want them to say I love you at the end of this one, or was the idea for the cliffhanger, did it kind of push you in that direction to kind of make that cliffhanger as powerful as it was? Like, hey, it would really be a humdinger if they were broken up, but right before we see that, they finally say I love you. What came first, the chicken or the egg, I guess is what I'm asking here. The I love you and then, hey, I have this cliffhanger, or the cliffhanger forced you to kind of say I love you to make the cliffhanger powerful?
Wow, what a great question, Brent. To answer it, I'm not dodging the answer, but I want to step back for a second. And as everyone knows who watches these shows, if you're so fortunate to be able to get to do more, like we are with Mystery 101, everyone knows the challenge of keeping that tension going between two people who clearly are attracted to each other, who are clearly intellectual soulmates, if not, romantic soulmates. And the question is, when will they get together? And the longer you can pull that tension out, the better. But you can't do it in a way that feels manipulative, like, oh, this is just the writer and the producers trying to not let them get together. So then you have to go inside the characters, and you have to figure, you have to reveal along the way, which I think we've been doing quite well. These are as wonderful and beautiful as as Jill and Chris are physically. And as brilliant as Amy is, and as clever as Travis is, these are damaged people. Yep. These are people that have pain in their lives, hurt in their lives, and there are reasons that they are not getting together. And it has to come from them. It can't come from the channel, this imaginary channel that doesn't exist in their hearts and minds. You have to go from their hearts and minds. So anyway, I just wanted to do that step back and explain that larger thing. So by the seventh movie, the seventh story that we're following them, it very naturally, and I think quite organically, because this story was about family, so much about family, and we've known a lot about Amy's family from the jump. We've known how important her father is to her. We've known how important her mother, who's deceased, is to her. How much the loss of her mother has meant to her. We knew that from the get-go. We have never talked about Travis's family except for his failed marriage, which we addressed very head on. But we never talked about that until this one, and it's come up and it's come out. And what in the course of this one, I think we really, the two of them really came to the point where they realized how deeply they do love each other. And it's not just that I think you're incredibly cute, I have a huge crush on you, I like doing this exciting, adrenaline-inducing work with you. That's all true. But there's something even deeper than that that I think this story brought out in both of them. So that's what earned us it. That's what got them to saying I love you. It's the fact that juxtaposed well with the cliffhanger, where they are clearly not together, where she is clearly has been with someone else who is also now clearly quite dead, is to, obviously throws it. The fact that that's a nice juxtaposition probably led me to that cliffhanger, but it probably came out of I love you, not out of some need to manipulate the audience and make them feel bad.
John, that's a great answer. You're speaking to my soul here, like damaged characters that are flawed, like people that are actually human beings. This is wonderful. You know that a good chunk of Hallmark viewers, they watch this to escape damaged characters. And I'm not one of those viewers. I'm with you. But for instance, I have an actual comment I'm going to read to you, John.
Sure.
And it says, and just like that, my favorite comfort watch is Kersplat. One more thing to have anxiety about. That is what this person.
Oh.
So what do you say to somebody who's just there to turn their brain off for an hour and a half?
Well, first of all, I would say to them, beautiful use of the word kersplat. Yes. I mean, that is some phenomenal onomatopoeia. I would also say that I think the reason you feel so comforted by Travis and Amy and Graham is not because they don't truck with, the horrors of life. I mean, what is possibly more horrible than homicide? Nothing. I mean, that is surely our greatest crime. So it's not that. It's the reason you're so comfortable with them, or they provide you such comfort, is because they are complicated people, and that's why you might be more comforted by them than you might two other characters in some other Hallmark thing, and why you might feel so hurt and wounded by what you witnessed in those closing 60 seconds or however long it is. But I would say, to comfort that person, the love that you feel for them, which obviously they feel for each other, do you really think that a love that strong is not going to somehow find a way to move forward in the future, right? Yeah. Do you really think that? That's what I would ask that person. Yeah. Like, do you really, really not believe, in fact, I quoted Matthew 8:26, where Christ says, ye of little faith, ye of little faith. He's really remonstrating against his apostles. Come on, get with it. Believe more. That's what you're being tested. You're being tested, and believe. So anyway,
Reverend Plummer bringing the good word. I do want to tell you, John, that
for the record, by the way, I'm a practicing SGI who chants Nam Myoho Renge Kyo every day, but
Are you serious?
Have great reverence for my Christian brothers and sisters. Yeah, I'm completely serious.
Okay, there you have it. Yeah. I couldn't tell. It was your screen froze, and the way you said it without the audio, without the visual, was a little weird. I would not have brought that quote up if I didn't have a happy ending for you, John. That quote is from one of our subscribers on Bramble Jam Plus. We have a chat for all the movies on our Facebook group that's private, and she actually came back to the chat and screenshotted your Much Ado About Nothing Act 4 thing and said, this makes more sense. And I'm on board. I'm back on board, and everything's okay. So you won her back over with your diligence and your expertise. So don't feel like you gave anyone anxiety.
Wonderful. Yeah. But wouldn't you? I mean, if these are characters that you really love, if you really love them, wouldn't you? I mean, think about I don't know if you guys are dads, but every scraped knee, every heartbroken relationship that your kids have, that's making them stronger. That's making them stronger. So to me, the way I would look at it with complicated, well-rounded people like Amy and Travis, yes, they're clearly in the briar patch right now. But, that's what, ingenuity is the way out.
That's
and
right.
They have plenty of that.
I love it.
I want to ask you one more question, and then we'll start to wrap up, I think. Not only is Mystery 101, we think, the best written of the mysteries, it also happens to have two of the best actors from just phenomenal. And we talked about it on yesterday's episode, but the scene where Travis is opening up about his parents is one of the most impressively acted scene on both ends between Chris and Jill. It's just phenomenal. How much of a I don't know, weight is off your shoulders knowing that you're writing for like just those people. Like you're not like, there has to be a little bit of a, like, you can breathe a sigh of relief knowing that the words that you are writing and spending so much time on are in the hands of Palaha and Joe Wagner.
Oh yeah. I mean, to answer your question, however much of a weight a gigantic heavyweight weighs, several tons, a several ton weight is off my shoulders because of those two. I mean, for real, it's such a joy. And rather than the weight being off my shoulders, a great spring is in my step, knowing that I can give them anything. And in terms of what these folks are going through, and from very subtle, nuancy things to, big, like you reference in that scene. I mean, and that scene is subtle too, I think, in the way that Travis explains what his own heart there. But you know that you can give them anything and they will bring themselves 100% to it and match it and take it further. They've really inspired me.
Is the first time you get to see that on screen when it airs, or do you show up on set and watch dailies and stuff?
I wish I was on set, but no, I'm not on set. That's just a budgetary thing. They don't fly the writer to Vancouver from New York to Vancouver and put up the writer for several weeks. No. But I am on call during the whole time. And so when the director has a question, or when, Chris or Jill has a question, I hear from Chris. Chris texts me too. Oh yeah. And he'll say, hey, we're about to shoot this. Can you explain some of the backstory about this? Whatever. So we're doing that. We're doing that a lot. And then of course I watch the cut. Once there's a cut, I'm watching it and giving notes and feedback and stuff. So I don't have to wait until it's
fantastic.
And just really quick, you also, on top of everything you're doing, you wrote an Audible original book about a Buddhist detective, which sounds amazing, fascinating. How did that come to be in the midst of everything you're doing between, writing these movies and all your other stuff? How did you decide I'm going to write a Buddhist detective audiobook?
Well, like I referenced earlier when I was quoting the book of Matthew and sharing my love and respect for my Christian brothers and sisters, I am a practicing SGI Buddhist. I do chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo every day. That's the title of the Lotus Sutra, which I chant to bring up my highest life condition, my Buddha nature. And it was while I was chanting that it's actually while I'm chanting that I have a lot of ideas. A lot of the mystery one-on-one ideas come to me while I'm chanting. And so I was chanting and this whole idea came to me about this young woman who practices SGI Buddhism, who chants every day and who uses her practice of chanting, in much the way that I do to solve the mysteries of what will be on the page. So
it's like early edition, but instead of the newspaper, it's chanting?
You mean are you referencing by any chance the Kyle Chandler CBS
classic
show?
Yes.
Here's the thing, man. We talk about early edition
all the time,
more than we ever should.
It was my favorite show as a kid.
Wow, that's amazing, man. That's so amazing. Anyway, I mean, of course, when you're chanting, you're really tuning into the universe. You're listening. You're listening to the voices that are out there and in here. And so, I had this whole sort of story came to me about this woman named Zip Ono, who's a practicing Buddhist and a private detective in the community where I actually live, which is in the Hudson Valley of New York, in Cold Spring, New York. And I just was so compelled by it, I started to write the novel and ended up getting a literary agent. And this was while I was writing Mystery 101, and then I had a relationship with somebody at Audible and said, hey, would you guys be interested in this? And they read the first few chapters and they said, oh, we're hugely interested. Send us the whole manuscript. So I did. And then they published it. And we had Allison Hiroto, who reads the novel, is phenomenal. It's really went well.
And what's the name of it again?
It's called Zip Ono Buddhist detective.
I mean,
but I
come
will
on.
say
I'm in.
For any of our Hallmark fans listening to this, the one big thing I've noticed in some of the comments is some of them do not like the fact that the people in this world use 4-letter words. So
What?
they are off put by that. Now,
John, how dare you?
I know this is shocking to you that people, in their mid-20s, or people in the hedge fund industry or in the media industry might occasionally, or maybe even more than occasionally, find colorful ways to express themselves. But yes, that does happen in the book. So this is a rated R. This book is, I would say Mystery 101 is PG-13 and Zip Ono is rated R.
I love it. I love
helps.
it. Man, I want to read that. I want to listen to it, whatever I got to do.
We have an idea as an early. Can we say this out loud, or do we want?
Or is somebody going to take it?
I don't know. It's an early
had this
edition.
idea, but
we have an early edition reboot idea that is just dynamite, and we don't know what to do with it.
We don't know what to do
We
with
don't
it.
know where to take it.
But we have it.
I think we need to.
I think John can take a crack on it.
We need to team up with John, and we can really make this thing happen. It's
a banger of an
really
idea,
good
John.
idea.
It's a bang. We actually mentioned it to Chris when we ate sushi with Chris in California. This is pre-COVID. We were out there doing a home
and
and
Chris
family.
is just like, man, we got to do something. We got to do something.
We pitched him this, and he was like, "That's a great idea," which is classic Chris, as you can imagine.
Yes, yes, he's always in on everything.
That's right.
He's always in on everything.
He's the best. So we're gonna have to pitch it to you off air. We don't want to give our idea away.
Cool.
But we got to pitch it to you. I think you really love it, John. God bless you, sir. You have been amazing. You can come back anytime you want. I'd love for you to just come on and help us review a movie you didn't write.
Fun, yeah.
I mean, that would be a blast. And I'm not sure if you're up for that or not.
I might get into trouble if I do that.
I think you'd fit right in with us around here. I just do. You just are wonderful, and you were so kind and generous with your time. Thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
You got it. And may we be the first to wish you a Merry Christmas.
Deck the Hallmark's a Bramble Jam podcast. It's presented by Philo TV. It's produced by Brandon Gray and recorded live in, Greenville, South Carolina. Set decor is by Plum at Haywood Mall. For more information on Deck the Hallmark, you can go to deckthehallmark.com. For more information on Bramble Jam Podcast Network, you can go to bramblejampodcast.com.